Hey, give me 30 seconds and one number, and I can tell you if any deal in America is worth buying. Here's the truth. I've bought over 200 properties in the last 10 years. I've also lost properties. I've had to sell properties, and every single time I lost, it came from ignoring this one number. You see, everybody gets seduced by price, right? They think that price is the most important thing on a property. They talk about ARV, like after repair value, like it's this fantasy thing and you could force every property to appreciate so high. Some people talk about appreciation, right? They talk about how they bought a property for this and it went up and up and up and up in value. These are opinions, okay? Price, ARV, appreciation stories, all opinion. There is one number that matters in investing in real estate, and I'm going to tell you what it is right now. If you've never met me, I'm John Crutchfield. I invest in the Dallas, Texas area. I also do a lot of deals in Tupelo, Mississippi. It's where I got started, and I am learning this game. I have learned the hard way in a lot of ways that real estate investing really boils down to one number, and that is net cash to you. After debt service, after taxes, after insurance, after vacancy, after management. If you are hearing this from people who are giving you quotes and making reels and influencing you, you're watching the right channel right now. Hit that subscribe button. Net cash to you is what matters, because after the repairs that everybody pretends won't happen, after the insurance that everybody pretends doesn't go up, after the vacancy that somehow we think doesn't happen when people are moving more than they ever have before, especially in rental properties, okay? After that mortgage, there needs to be some money left over to you. And so I teach you the most important number in this business. It is net cash to you. Absolutely, okay? So let's talk about one of my properties that I thought I made a bunch of money on. I bought a property in 2024, and doctors lived out of state, but they just didn't want the property anymore. Gorgeous property, backs up to a lake, 3,400 square foot house in an area where houses were selling for $550,000 to $600,000. Okay, I was focused on price on this property. They sold me this property for $220,000. Okay, this was not a property falling over. This property did not need a lot of work. So some of you are hearing the number right offhand, and you heard some interesting details. You heard ARV of $550,000, and then you heard purchase price of $220,000. Okay, it only needed about $30,000 in repairs. So some of you can do that formula real quickly, and you know that is a smoking deal, right? You know that's a smoking deal. Some of you are still learning this, and you should be inside of our inner circle. You should be inside of our coaching community. You should be working with me directly if you're serious about getting a deal done. And you should be commenting the word map wherever you're seeing this so that you can learn whether this is a good deal or not. But hey, a property you purchased for $220,000 and then you renovate it for $30,000 and it's worth over $550,000 by all accounts is an amazing deal. Problem is that at the time that I bought this property, I was addicted to holding properties. I didn't want to sell anything. So I decided that I would fix the property up and rent it out for $2,000 a month. That's what I could get pretty easily in my market for that property. Okay. Well, here's the problem. When I decided to do that, I didn't necessarily look at cash flow. In fact, I was thinking, okay, it's going to cover the mortgage and it's going to cover the taxes and maybe the insurance, but I wasn't thinking about the repair costs. I wasn't thinking about the fact that property insurance would go up on this particular property, which it did. And I wasn't thinking about the fact that my loan terms would change because the loan I got was a balloon type note with a local community bank. And so my interest rate went from 4% to 8% on this property, which changed the payment on this property. Okay. And this really happens in real life, right? You might say, oh, well, I would never get an adjustable rate mortgage. Well, you learned a lesson that a lot of people should learn, right? Oh, well, you should have just flipped the property. Yes, that is true. If this property would have net me $200,000 to $300,000 in cash, it would have been better to flip this property and net cash to me than to try to hold this property for the last 2 years, and the last year of which it has been negatively cash flowing. Why don't I recommend holding properties that negatively cash flow? Because every single month you feel that pain. You make a payment that's not completely covered by the tenant. And when you do that, you feel that pain, especially if you're like me and you're like a lot of people in our network who want to do multiple deals, right? You feel when that property is not covering itself. You feel when that property has expenses that are not being paid for by that tenant, okay? So this same number, I'm going to tell you, net cash to you tells you when you should sell a property. And I talk about that sometimes, okay? You should sell a property when it is not netting cash to you. When you could make a lot of money from selling that property now and reinvesting that money into properties that net cash to you, it's time to let it go. If I can make $100,000 or $200,000 on this property instead of waiting, okay, for $100 a month or $200 a month, it's time to let that property go. It's time to take that cash and reinvest it into something that will make more money. Yes, there are exceptions to every rule. So if you're watching this and you think of an exception, okay, then you're probably somebody that we should talk to, because you might be thinking of an exception. But by and large, most people are not the minority. Most people are not the minority. Most people should be selling a property if they have the ability to profit and have net cash to them be a significant number. That way they can take that money and reinvest that money. So if the net of a property is negative and there is no fixable reason, you can't raise the rents, you can't figure out how to get that property to be positively cash flowing, that property is not an asset. That property is not an asset, it is a bill. Yes, it is a bill with a roof. If it is not positively bringing cash flow to you, that number is the most important number. And I teach this every single week inside of our inner circle, inside of our community. I break down real deals like this every single week with my students, including deals you should actually buy. If you want in on that, comment the word flip and I'll show you exactly how I work. I'll show you exactly how my students are doing deals every single week. I'm serious about getting you to your first 6 figures in real estate. I want you to book a strategy call with me. Talk to me about what you're working on. Let's build your specific plan. I'm John Crutchfield, and I'd love to see you soon. Talk to you later.